Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another episode of Gloving Table Talks, which I am your host, LPD8 Dubuque, and joining with me, of course, is one of my lovely co-hosts who has been here a long time, StarStream, and of course coming back with us, Vioh. We always have Vioh here. I am actually very glad to see you guys back. I do apologize to everybody. It has been a while since we actually did one of these episodes, but I wanted to not pressure and add more stress to people who were planning on attending and also working the two events that just went by, LGC and G3 Battlegrounds. I keep having to remind myself I have to say Battlegrounds because it's not necessarily the same as the first one. So basically what we're going to be doing in this episode is very simple. We're going to recount the two events, and we're going to compare and contrast these two events and pretty much try to understand what takeaways that we can have that will improve our next in-person event, whoever may be throwing it, because I want to make sure to help people get that kind of knowledge and experience being shared through that. So without further ado, which one do you guys want to talk about first, LGC or G3?
All right, I think it only makes sense to go in the order they happened.
I would agree.
I would definitely probably agree with you on that. So for people who don't know, LGC stands for Legacy Gloving Competition. Basically, it is a grassroots type event that wants to preserve essentially the legacy of competitive gloving. The format in which has been built by Amazing Lights and what we have done for many years during our very first Renaissance. For people who don't know, both Vioh and StarStream went to both events, and they were both in person, and they also helped at both events in terms of staffing type deal.
I did not staff LGC.
I did. I was on the judge panel. He was on the backup setup. LGC, right. he didn't. He was just kicking it. And
well, yeah. But he also helped with the live stream on G3 Battlegrounds, so that is in that respect.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think the first thing to probably start with is how it was as a in-person event rather than the live streams themselves. I think we'll get to those a little bit later, but I feel like talking about with these two who have been there, what do you guys think about how LGC was? What was the venue like? How did you feel like it was accommodating for the size that we had?
You want to kick us off, Mac?
Yeah, sure, I'll kick us off. I thought that the venue honestly was a pretty good size. Just to give a visual for people, you had like a little parking lot with the fence and a truck with a little taco shop right outside. It's pretty lit. Very good. I had some quesadillas. I didn't get tacos, but because I have tacos all the time, Mexican, and I live in Texas. But yeah, so they had this gravel everywhere. Just make it soft and easy so no one can get stuck or whatever. And it looked like a shed. I got there early. I had VIP parking. I parked right next to the door. I was like, oh yeah! I walked out, opened the door. Let's go. Nice. But you go in. You had a few booths for vendors. So you can already start buying stuff to support or just anything that's cool. The place is ran by the Houston House of Flow. They're a really dope community. They have all kinds of flow artists there. A lot of fire performers there too. They don't typically like to do fire there because they don't want to mess it up. Because that place is grassroots built. Like literally the communities built it together.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's run by my friend, or she's one of the people who run it. It's owned by somebody else. Her name is Maggie Morpie. She's awesome. She's a fantastic Boo Gang artist and fan spinner. And she's also done some choreography for people out at what's that big festival? Burning Man. Yeah, that one.
Nice.
She's literally been out there doing it. She actually that weekend hired me to teach a workshop at Houston Community College. Pretty awesome.
Nice.
But once you get past all that, you had seen like a little chill spot for people to just sit down, a bunch of tables. people to just hang out while they're getting ready before they go into the arena, right? So you walk into the arena and you see the glow LEDs booth. Then you see like a bunch of like you see like a DJ in this corner, and then you have like everyone's kind of like crowded around a little corner. It's a big old black yoga mat. But everyone's kind of like just watching around the it looked like just like the way they did it there is that they just did it one-on-one. So you had everyone just watching one match in like the corner of the room, like a spotlight type thing. And then the way the judging was done is that there was a deliberation room. So you would just you just do the match, turn around, follow the judges, and you go into this little dark room. It look like you're gonna get killed in there.
Dude, all mafia
Like,
style, set him in a chair
you
with
get
a
jumped
front
in.
spotlight on them.
Like, tell me, would you not agree, Matt?
Yeah, you're like, it feels like you're getting jumped into a gang or something. Like, come on, you gotta come in this room real quick.
Literally, it's just like a dark room with one light, and it looks like hella messed up. But it's okay. It got
this big.
serious in there. Yeah, really small. We were all like arm length away from each other.
And so, did you have 3 judges or 2 judges per?
There were
match?
6 judges, but 3 per match.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So was it a vote of 2 out of 3 type deal?
It depends. So like for a majority of it, we basically would, after we would do the round, we'd go into the back room, and depending on who went first last time, so we would just someone would go first, one out of the judges to stop first, and we do a variation of 1 2 3 2 1 3 3 1 2 yada yada yada, in the order of people going and discussing and giving their piece. And yeah, that's basically it. We would discuss it. If competitors there, we had a question, we would ask a question. But we wanted to make sure that everything was heard and they understood our reasoning behind why we were doing it, so that there was feedback directly given to them at a faster rate. You know, because I know sometimes it hit me rough competing for something, and then like months later you're getting the results, and you kind of like, oh, I forgot how I was even thinking back then. Yada yada yada. Also, like, it's easier once you feel the energy behind the words versus just seeing the words and you putting your own tone on it when you may or may not know how they expressed it. So it's another thing that kind of avoids. It was definitely more of a American Idol, but because there wasn't like a scorecard and we were just us judges talking about it, but it still did what needed to be done. Everyone was happy. Even like there were matches where like towards the end we did like a voting thing, because there were 6 of us or 5 of us at that point, but we still vocalized why we thought what we thought.
Right.
There was not a unanimous match that I was a part of.
Like there wasn't like a straight across the board one.
I think there might have been like one. I think there might have been one, and that was early on. That was it.
Yeah, I do find that interesting that you actually had like a deliberation room where you brought the competitors in there to immediately hear the feedback.
Was my idea. That's Josh, Gian, all them. They're awesome.
Well, no, the reason why I think this actually is beneficial is the competitors are getting the immediate feedback and actually hearing it and not being distracted by everybody else who hyped them up or you know, trash talk or whatever. They're actually like it. I like the idea that you separate that so they can have the undivided attention to that and not have people trying to like interrupt and be like, hey, I want to let's hang out type deal. You know, I like that idea, honestly. I would also find it interesting to see people do that even with a scorecard, so they actually hear like some of the feedback of what stuck out to them from the judges and understand when they get the score. After that, they're like, okay, or at least I have some framework to understand why my score is this way. So I think that's actually something people should probably write down if that's a good takeaway immediately. Is that
Absolutely.
kind kind of just judging. Now, I'm sure G3 was the exact same way as how it's always been. There's a scorecard, judges do their own deliberation stuff.
Before we go too far, Matt, how would you describe LGC as a competitor?
I thought it was sick. A little disclaimer: I haven't been to a whole lot of competitions. LGC was technically my second in person, and so I don't have a whole lot to base it off of. But as far as going there, I thought it was phenomenal. As far as the space needed for the amount of people that we had, I felt like it was perfect. It didn't feel too crowded. I was able to step away. Like if I got a little too overwhelmed, a little too crazy in the chaos, there's enough places to go sit down, either in the arena room or just right outside in the vendor room. And the craziest thing was just the vibes everybody came with. Like it felt like everybody was family. It was weird. And weird, it's just I'm not used to it. That's what felt weird. And it was just super cool. Yeah, they rolled deep. And so I thought as far as how it ran, it seemed to run great. Obviously, I wasn't on the back end of this one, so I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I thought it went fantastic. I don't have any feedback, to be honest. I thought it was sick. I think the music went well. I thought how the rounds moved were perfect. And just to kind of go off what you guys were saying when it comes to giving that feedback, that was probably my favorite part, was going in, competing, and then hearing why I lost. And getting that kind of feedback that quick, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of closure, if that makes sense. Like it's like, okay, I get it. I see exactly what you mean. And so I think that was probably the coolest part of it, was being able to hear the perspective of all the judges and just really knowing how you measured up, as opposed to just being like, oh, I either lost or I won. But being able to know how you measured up against the people you went with was a really dope idea. So shout out everybody that put that event on. It was amazing.
Yeah, so I think that's one, and at least from my perspective as somebody who is watching the live stream, I think that's one of the things that people kind of got confused on is from us, it's like, okay, we saw the thing happen, and then, of course, the camera didn't change because they only had one camera. But it was just fun because a lot of people were like, well, what's going on? I'm like, well, they're tallying up scores or they're doing their judge thing right now. Like, okay, so we're just going to be staring at this floor. If I recall, when I spoke to Gian about it, I think he said that the live stream was more of like a kind of afterthought. Wasn't something that they intentionally planned, but in all retrospect, even if it was an afterthought to the whole scheme of LGC, I think it worked out as better than one would expect, in all honesty. Even though, yeah, I'm a little picky on like what I want the camera to be doing in between these rounds and stuff. As an afterthought slopped together, like, could have been way worse. I just know everyone kind of got a little sad and disappointed towards the end of it because it started lagging out like crazy. But
yeah, my last finger show. I did a finger show on that stream. It's gone.
No,
it's gone. The stream wasn't. They didn't set things up to like make it
bought it
or whatever. Yada yada. Like I said, it was an afterthought. There was no like host or anything. We're like kind of just you're experiencing it without experiencing it as best you can.
I mean, at least we got to see the shows. I think that's what a lot of people are taking away from LGC's live stream, is that at least we got to watch most of the shows. I know some people had some connection issues and it started lagging out at certain parts. But I mean, I've seen it worse. I've seen things way worse when it comes to live streams. So. But yeah, no, it's actually kind of interesting because I was hearing from some people that the venue for G3 was a bit smaller than LGC's.
I would agree in different ways too. For example, when you go into the G3 one, it was a tattoo shop. There wasn't as much parking. That was another art, but it's also California. You walk up some stairs, have like a little room, little tattoo area, little lounge. I would say about as big as this.
Yeah.
roughly.
Well, yeah,
People-
as soon as you said tattoo shop, I'm picturing a very small location immediately.
And it was kind of like blocked off, so you couldn't even go in like unless you're getting inked up. You weren't really going over there.
Yeah, like you have the front end, you have the back end, you know, you have blocked off rooms for like stations and stuff. But
Yeah, and then there's a doorway, and that's where everything's at. There's like a little bar. There's a bartender over here doing his thing. You had like a big projector. That was one thing I forgot to say about the LGC. There was a big projector there too. I was like trying to envision it. I'm like, I get some of it mixed in my head a little bit. But yeah, they had a big old like projector with stone.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah, and then for G3, there was a big projector, and they had like the live stream of the comp. So in case you weren't up there, you could watch it right there. Pretty lit.
at LGC.
At G3.
Oh, okay, at G3. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, at LGC was the stone. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, at G3 there was that, which was really cool. There was the booth for all the gloving. It was basically an all-in-one booth for all the flow stuff. Then you had all the back end that Matt, Scott, and all them were running.
Yeah.
And then to the right, because only staff could really go over there, because there was like a little back area for us to put our stuff and stuff.
Right.
There was a smoking area, like a little, and it was about the same size as the deliberation room, but you had open airflow.
It was tiny.
So like, so you couldn't do that in the deliberation room, but
Right.
out there you could.
No, I find it interesting because that was just something I was like, what? Did they really go with a really small location for G3? Because a lot of people tell me it was really difficult to actually get around because of how many people were there. So I don't even necessarily say it's like the location's fault. It was just like the location wasn't as sufficient for the amount of people of the audience being there. You know what I mean? At least that's what my takeaway when a lot of people were talking about it was. So it just made me sit there and be like, oh.
I brought a hand fan and it broke. I was like, no. That was my saving grace. I'm always bringing a fan to stuff like that because I know it's gonna get hot. And I was the only one with that thing. I was like, yes, right. It died.
Oh, dude. Yeah, it was definitely a little cramped, and then of course when you have all those people in a tiny room, it gets very hot.
But it still had good vibes though. Like I was hyped to see people.
1,000%, dude. Oh my god, it was so good.
Do you guys know the numbers in terms of attendance between LGC and G3?
I don't know ticket sales or nothing, unfortunately.
Oh, I just literally just want to know the numbers of people who
I don't
attended.
know, but visually it looked around the same amount of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might have looked closer just because less space in between at G3. But I mean, there was literally a lot of people, like standing room type shit. There were some moments where it was like that.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just kind of curious because I'm like, I wonder how many people actually attended between the two, because if it's like venue size, and G3 had a lot more people just compared to LGC. I was gonna be like, well, maybe that's one of the reasons, like trying to plot some variables. Yeah, no, I would certainly say, at least from the live stream, even though we only had one view from LGC, the venue did look pretty big. I would certainly say the difference between the two live streams were very comparable. I would certainly say the one thing that made G3 exponentially better, once they started doing the interview process, that was a whole lot better. I literally felt like things were moving along much faster, and there was not this kind of dead air moment that no one knows what was going on. So Gian kind of already knows, but I will certainly say to anyone who's doing an in-person comp with a live stream, you got to get your live stream team to do interviews, even if it's just with attendees in the crowd who are just there to see what's going on. Just getting people to talk on camera in between the rounds and in between the matches is very important, in my opinion, because it certainly felt a lot more things were going on, and it just elevated the entertainment value. So I can't thank Scott and Josh enough for for getting those interviews in.
Yeah, big shout out Josh and Scott because they were the ones that really grabbed that by the reins and were able to do it well. Because not only that, they're just great in front of a camera and they know everybody, and it was just awesome to have everybody up. And then Scotty as well, he was grabbing people, having them come up, give light shows and talk and things like that. So big shout out to those three for making the stream for what it was. They really killed it.
Yeah. I know that, like, you, Matt and I have spoke about this off camera, but something that that McKinnley brought up was the live stream on a television screen at the event. And that's something that I feel is kind of been missing since IGC. Because if you actually watch some of the IGC videos, you actually see a big screen of the feature match that's being recorded right there and then. And I feel like that's something that I feel is very, very important to have for the sake of people being able to watch and being able to observe. As much as I love the whole crowd around, getting the crowd audience while the performance is going, I do feel like when it comes to like the equipment and stuff, we definitely need to work on that. Just because the amount of times I hear the amount of cameras that get knocked over is absurd.
Yeah, it's rough.
So
I was on camera duty during my judging matches.
were you just holding the camera in place, or?
I was doing two things.
Okay.
For like the first 5 seconds, I'd be making sure they're in frame. Then I'm like, all right, anchored in, watch, and like holding, so it doesn't ever get knocked over or whatever.
I personally think there's a very easy solution to that whole thing, and that's just roping
We
off
tried
the
changing
area.
it. Oh,
No, we're talking like physical barriers of the match areas from the spectators.
Speaking of that, so remember the Ukraine guy? He was awesome dude.
Yeah.
However, we now have to make a rule. I don't know if Eddie's going to do it like this per se or anything like that. But you know how we had the live stream?
Right.
Everyone could see it. All right, you know, typically everyone's just watching, right? Crane guy had his gloves on, and he was doing his thing in the background, which is cool. Do your thing, but it's like, hold on, you're detracting and distracting from the show that's happening right there, right? Despite your intention. So now we got to make it to where you can't have your gloves over there if you're going to be in the stands. So that kind of thing.
Well, see, that's where, like, to me, like, blocking it off and roping it off will also help mitigate that.
But now you got to add that too.
Well, I mean, you know the like, Matt, you know what I was talking about with the what's it called? They use at the movie theaters the little strap thing that they rope off to kind of crowd control.
Portable seatbelts.
Yeah, portable seatbelts, I guess is what they're called.
Yeah,
That's what I call them.
Like that all the time.
That's all you. That's all you would need.
You just need to, dude. I work in this. No, people walk past them. People walk through them all the time.
Coming through.
I set that up every day at my bar and my server well, and people just go walk through it, start grabbing stuff. I'm like, what are you doing?
Well,
Clearly.
Well, I can certainly see where the frustration is at, but I definitely see where that will at least help mitigate like cameras getting touched and tampered with.
It'll help.
And I don't know. I know this is like, it's big brain thought process for me, but it's just like, just roping it off and just having the competition area barriered from a spectator area is just a necessity. As much as I understand why people want to have the crowd to be able to sit there and watch, that's why we want the big television screen showing the feature match that is being featured, so people can see even though they can't see it right there in person. These are just, I don't want to say they're minor things. These are like pretty big tasks to ask, but we have gotten there before and we can get there again.
Yeah,
So,
I think a lot of that'll just be dictated by the venue, and then funds at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like we did as much as we could to try to block off the area because that's essentially where Scotty was the whole time, and I was behind that table just trying to coach as much as I could to get people not to go through there. But just due to the limitations of the area, it just had that spillover, and it was just kind of tough to really hard line.
More like manpower, like if someone had a role for security or something like that. But
right, like literally some dude going like this, like no, don't go that way.
Well, I'll even say this, like I will make a little like post-production thing, like for the audience. This is what I'm talking about. Like this is how I want it roped off. Like here's my schematic for it. And what I mean by this is even like each match square is roped off in a way that is easy to control people in and out of there in a timely manner. I don't know. It's just one of those things that I've always kind of perplexed by it because at least with IGC, they actually had a little bit more of a roping off the competitor section to the spectator section for the most part, especially with their feature match area. So I find it interesting that we haven't kept that going just from that. And I can understand like maybe it is a question of funds to actually have the roping off equipment and barrier equipment to do so. But I mean, like you can literally use the portable seatbelt stuff and then just drape a banner over the front of it to make sure it's like, here's a very physical, you can see that this is not a place that you can walk past.
It's one of those things though. It's also like, let's say you're investing in a business. That's like part of your startup investment.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, I mean, 100%. If we were,
but it's not thought about.
If this was a money-making machine and they were able to do this regularly, it would make sense to have a bunch of money and infrastructure and things like that. At the end of the day, everything was donated. If the venue doesn't come with it, we have to bring it, and I don't have any at my house. And it's like that's kind of where we run into the issue a little bit there, I think.
Right. Well, and I think maybe it is a question of where do we go as a venue, you know, with venue selection, finding a venue that would actually have that type of equipment to accommodate
taking note. Maybe we could think about that in the future, etc. These are all just good things to pass on.
Yeah, I would certainly say what we are discussing here is literally just the ideas and trying to get them out there. So if anyone who is thinking about doing this, here are ideas that you can titillate, essentially.
Yes, absolutely.
Just humor yourself with these kind of ideas and figure out if it's actually feasible for you to do so. But to me, it's definitely. I've always looked at it like that's the layer of professionalism, quality that the competitive scene needs to have is like this very roped off competitor area, spectator area, and it allows. I think it just really allows for people to get in there and get out of there, and keep things going.
Absolutely.
But I will certainly say I did like how even with like the hiccups that G3 had with one of the cameras not syncing up to the software to allow multi-camera use. I feel like you guys really quickly figured out, okay, I can just put the camera here. It's a good
adapt.
Yeah, it's a good shot. You can see the venue at the same time. You're still getting those interviews in. To me, it was like you literally made good out of a really bad situation. So that's one of the things that I would say if you're somebody who is planning on live streaming your in-person event. Ultimately, to me, like the minimum things you would need is 2 cameras, one for the feature match area, and then one for like the commentator table area where you can have your interviews and things like that. For the in-between round moments, ideally, I would want a third camera to look over at the venue itself so people can literally see the foot traffic of the attendees there. And I do find that very important because I want to showcase how many people are actually just there, not how many competitors there are, how many judges there are. I want to show like everybody, and also show like what kind of event that we would put out there, right? Because I mean, there were banners and whole things that even LGC had. So it's like I want to be able to show that. I mean, people put work in creating those things. I want to see it. So
definitely, and like to just add a little tidbit on that live stream setup. In my opinion, just for anybody else who's trying to do this, I would expect to have 3 people to be able to run this properly. You need to have somebody behind the computer that's just running the technical side of it, switching scenes, commenting in the chat, keeping stuff moving along in that sense. Then you need somebody who is in control of the camera, whether it be placement, movement, things like that need to happen. And then somebody that just has oversight of both of those, kind of like the coordinator, if there's any kind of hiccups in between. That will just make everything move much smoother than trying to run it yourself. Because like when G3 first started, Scott Merck definitely helped opening us up and things like that. But there was a little bit where it was just kind of me while Scotty was running around doing all of the camera stuff. But then once we got Josh in towards a little bit in more, everything really just started churning. That's where you saw the interviews come in. That's where you start seeing things just run much smoother. So just like anything else, more hands always helps. But I would say if you're going to do a live stream, expect to have like 3 roughly. You can probably get away with 2 if it's smaller.
Yeah, I would say especially something for like G3. You can have one person be a commentator, and that would actually run and go grab the people for the interviews and stuff. And then you have the other person who's working the cameras. I do know with G3 it was a little bit more because they were recording their respective flights, which to everyone in the audience who doesn't understand the term flight in this case, it's literally a set of matches within the round. So if you have 8 different matches within one round, a flight would be 4 of those matches. So you have flight 1, flight 2. That's how we kind of break it down, because if we try to have them all happen at once, you have like 16 judges on watching all these different matches at once. It's a lot. It's a lot to ask. I definitely saw that there was some technical difficulties, but I definitely feel like with LGC was just like, well, it is what it is. We don't have much more that we can focus on in that because it is what it was. So I do think it was kind of funny though. It was just like with where the mic was in LGC, just some of the random commentary going on during the match was very interesting. I thought that was funny.
I didn't know you guys could hear that. I bet that was wild.
It was, but I think it's even funnier that the person didn't even know that was happening.
Right.
They were speaking on the live stream, so I don't know if that's something that I would want to see continued. I would actually want to hear from the audience. What do you guys think about commentary during the match? Kind of like how you would see in like sports streams and
if you had 2 different channels you tune into.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't know about that.
Well, here's the thing that me and Matt talked off camera before that I wanted to bring up. That it would be really cool to see is like big budget idea that like my pipe dream is being able to live stream all 4 matches happening within the round at that time. So it's not like just one match is featured per flight. It's like everybody gets featured. There was a live stream show. I don't know what to call it, but it's a thing called Fish Tank. I believe the content creator Sam Hyde, I think it's his name, was the host of it, and it's basically had camera feeds in multiple different rooms, and the audience was actually able to click on the different live feeds on their like stream to watch whatever they wanted to watch of those cameras that were in the house and follow along with whoever they wanted to follow. I think it would be really cool if that was a feature that we can implement on a live stream, but that's a big budget idea. Like that's very big budget. That's multiple cameras, that's multiple feeds, that's a lot of juice in terms of electricity. So
as far as the commentary goes, I'd be curious y'all's take. Personally, like, I don't think I'm a fan of commentary during the show.
Not during it.
I wouldn't say definitely not during it.
Okay, I was making sure I was on the same page as y'all. I was thinking like esports, like live commentary. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Oh, you just threw a finger roll.
Exactly.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, it would. I think some people might find that more interesting because I know with like when I did like reaction videos to light shows and stuff, like with pit battles and stuff, people said they liked my reactions in real time to what I was watching, which makes sense. But I feel like your own reaction when you're watching a live stream and hearing the audience, you know, not the commentators, but the spectators who are in the crowd reacting, that's actually really important, especially when it comes to a in-person comp for gloving. Just like any dance battle competition, the crowd sounds is also part of like the experience. So
1000%. Yeah.
I wouldn't want commentators to drown that out as well. I do see that how that could be extremely distracting. But I would like to have the commentators in between the rounds be like, how did you feel about that last round? And like, oh, that person threw nothing but fire. Like, yeah, that's very, very important in my opinion, because
That'd be sick.
Yeah, because then it gets the audience to start to engage, especially if they're watching the live stream and start posting comments in the chat feed. So yeah, no, I would certainly say in terms of live streams, we have a lot of room to improve. And I feel like it's just something that nobody really understands, is that gloving never really thought about doing live streams. Right? Like we record the competition, we compile it all together, clean it all up, and present it onto YouTube a couple weeks later. Like that's how we always did it.
They went the YouTube route. Yeah, just record each thing and edit it and put it out later.
Yeah, and well, that's just how we did it in the very, very beginning. Like with IGC, you waited until, if you didn't go, you just wait until the videos come out, and then you just watch all the rounds and get through it that way. But I feel like we are entering in a new space by trying to live stream gloving competitions. And I think it's just us trying to figure out how to format that, you know. And I feel like it's really, really easy if you're going to have one feature match between each with all the rounds. As soon as the competitors are done competing, they should be able to just walk right over to the commentary table for a quick interview and then move on. And I mean, you can literally have your live stream set up right there in like one little corner. It's all nice and concise. Everybody else can move about the space however they need to, and it just makes it a lot easier, in my opinion.
Right.
Like just the ease of access to get in and out is really, really important. So, and that's one of the things that neither comp really did for the live streams. But then again, these are things that we're figuring out on our own.
Yeah, I mean, like we had planned that. Like a little side note or back in behind the scenes, whatever you want to call it. We had planned on having like a little confession booth, little interview booth area to have after every comp or after every round, try to have them come up and just say something. Even if it was just 30-second something, you know? But we were just running into logistical and technical issues so much that we kind of had to let that slide just a little bit just to try to make sure the main event kept flowing a little smoother. But you're hitting the nail on the head. That would be just perfect. Anybody that's doing comps, if you can do like a post-round coverage that buys you your dead space, right? You're going to fill that while the other one's getting ready to go. Yeah. So that would be a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin probably even said that he would be a commentator. I would even be a commentator because, I could sit there and talk about glowing like all day, every day. And I feel like getting more personalities out there to do commentary in that fashion for competitions is also going to really help. Because I can certainly tell you, they're from my experience with like watching big stake tournaments, whether it's card games, esports, dance competitions, whatever the case may be. Your commentators are also going to make or break your live stream or just the curation of it, because you guys sell that personality that people are going to gravitate towards. And I feel like one of the people, especially if Teddy's watching this, one of the people I would recommend him to use as a commentator like that is Merc, just right off the bat. You get Scott Wilson. Yes. You get Scott Wilson as a commentator. You're gonna be good as gold. Like, if he was actually able to get Socks to come back just to commentate like that, you get Merc and Socks on commentation. Oh, dude. No,
Game
nothing's
over.
gonna stop. That is an unstoppable team, in my opinion, right there.
Or a Merc and Folly.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
a great combination right there.
You got that yin yang effect going on.
I would certainly say if you were able to get Starlight and Puppet, that would be another great combination right there. Yeah, no, there's a good number of people. I would certainly say like me and Genghis Wrath would be a great combo.
That'd be amazing. I would love to watch you guys react to that kind of stuff or commentate. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I think Genghis Wrath and I would definitely kill it in that regards because that was probably one of the funnest things that him and I did with Mr. Freckles learned the IGL scorecard comp. With us doing the coverage of that was just phenomenal. Being able to take the scorecards of each round and try to discern what the judges were trying to tell the competitors through their scorecard was a really interesting exercise in interpreting scorecards, in my opinion. Also felt like that actually played along in the spirit of what the competition was trying to do by teaching you the scorecard.
Right.
I don't know. I there is a lot of takeaways, in my opinion, when it comes to all this. Major one for me is I like the immediate judge deliberation in front of the competitors, so the competitors can get literal immediate feedback from the judges. Like it just, I just didn't really think about that when somebody explained to me. Oh yeah, no, they're actually taking the competitors in with the judges. Like, oh, well, that's interesting. That it kind of brings a layer of transparency to it all. But I didn't really think about like the immediate live feedback stuff. Like as soon as McKinnley explained it, I'm like, that's actually more important than I realized.
That's what sold me on it, because like, I take it back. I said Josh and Gian, but to be honest, I forgot that me and Folly had did this for the pit battle comp like a year before, and we did the same thing for Gideon. It was Gideon and Gian, and it was Gideon is the one who hosted it, but Gian won the competition. Gideon made it all the way to the end. It was me, Jarrett, and one more person. I don't know why I'm blanking. I feel like it wasn't Mobley. But anyways, we had 3 judges, and we did the same thing. That's when we first did that whole feedback right there, deliberate, talk it out.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Folly brought it over there.
Yeah,
The sauce.
I like that idea. And it's just because I feel like, at least from my experience when we went to the first G3, people weren't actually like, a lot of people were like, I want to know why I got this score. And so I feel like at least getting that little bit of information from the judges to kind of help shape the framework of how they are viewing their show, so they can understand how they are being perceived by their judges, will exponentially do more good for the community as a whole. And I also feel like it will bridge that gap of the connection between the competitors and the judges, in all honesty. You know, I feel like with those conversations happening, we're going to now start to develop that kind of standard of understanding a breakdown of a light show.
Right.
That's the best way I can put that. Because when you start to understand how people dissect a light show, the more you're going to be able to understand how different perspectives are going to see things. And knowing those different perspectives, you're going to actually try to take advantage of those, because now you know how people see things. But yeah, okay. So in terms of both comps, both were there, one as a competitor and one as a judge, especially with LGC, which one ran smoother in your opinion?
I mean, there was a little bit of a hiccup at G3 a little bit. So I mean, like, I would say it was smoother at LGC, but if you want to be technical, G3 ran 2 competitions in the same amount of time that G3 took to run one.
Wait, so
Something to consider,
LGC
too.
was able to essentially run
LGC LGC had 1. G3 had 2 competitions happening, and it took the same amount of time that it took LGC to do 1.
I feel so dumb. My brain just completely turned off. I'm like, well, yeah, G3 had the full bot. I'm like, nope, team competition and single bracket. Okay.
Yeah, and that's
sorry.
2 years in a row.
That is true. That is certainly true. I think that's something that we need to take away. Is
That's why I said that in the post that they would put out, and I was like, I just think it'd be better if we didn't juggle 2 things and just made something really great. Because it's super ambitious and we're awesome for doing it, but I think it's what's holding us back a little bit. And once we narrow down the 1, it's just gonna now we can do. What if we do 2 competitions a year versus just 1? Mixing 2,
Right. I would definitely understand trying to have 2 at once kind of deal, because the funds for venue and that, and I feel like there's having a variety of different formats of competition is going to cater to a wider audience in general, because you're gonna have people who just want the single brackets, and you're gonna want people who just want the team bracket stuff. But there is going to be an overlap of that within the audience, so you're covering it more.
I also think the other cool part about having 2 things going is the amount of opportunity, the amount of people that are able to participate versus the other one. Like, I think it was at a point where we were having some of the singles also competing in the teams, but it got to a point that it built up so much that we couldn't let people double dip into both comps. And so, because we already had like a waiting list going, and so Teddy had to move some stuff around a little bit there. But like, that just gave more opportunity for people to come in and show up and show out, kind of a thing. Right. I thought that was neat.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great idea, because like, you definitely want to get as many new people exposed as you can who actually want to do it.
Yeah, I think there's people have already started taking ideas and trying to run with it, and being a little bit more bold and ambitious, in my opinion, with the upcoming competition of the Emerald City Cup, which, anyone in the audience who doesn't know, there is another comp that's in the works. There have been things posted here. I'll even show you some graphics here on the screen. It's kind of like part online, part in person, and the event for it in person is actually trying to expand more into being more of a gloving convention, which is something I have been screaming for many years now that we need to start doing.
Yep. It's a lot. It's ambitious. I really hope that it works, because it's going to be tough. That's why I don't even know I could ever do that. It's a lot to invest in, and like yada yada. Because that's what they have that Kickstarter for, right? Is that what it is? Kickstarter?
I believe they did a crowdfunding source. That I'll say.
Crowdfunding source. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's wild. Because it's not just gloving; it's like flow art centric in general.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that going into a more general flow art space is a good idea. It's just because there is overlap with many different flow arts. Poi spinners are probably also going to be huge. Glow stickers as well, and orbiters are probably going to Poi as well. Like there's a lot of overlap with the flow arts, and some of them actually will spill into some of the dance spaces too. So I feel like there is a form of connections that we can make here. But trying to get gloving into a convention, or having a convention that also caters to gloving, I feel like is what people just don't understand. This is how we get it in front of the general public's eye, removed from any form of stigma that we have cultivated because of public perception being able to place that on us.
Right.
And us not actually going into the work to just showcase it in a different way. And I feel like, because all of us had the same idea, or very similar ideas, that what is the best way to get gloving out there in front of an audience? Competitions. You just show a competition, it's like, this is it. But I feel like that was then, and I don't necessarily think it's going to work 100% the way that they think it's going to work in today's standards. You know what I mean? It's just like inefficiency for inefficiency's sake, or because, this is how we always say it. It's just like we can always improve. But I feel like having the convention is actually going to make it a lot easier for us to really break out and showcase it in a non-competitive light. And I feel like that's what a lot of people have been wanting, is a way to show it in a non-competitive sense. Not saying that competitions are bad.
No. I would totally agree. It's you're going from using a fine tipped brush to a really wide roller as soon as it becomes a convention, because conventions can be a multitude of things. You can have people show up just out of curiosity and things like that. And so I think having that convention style meetup, whether it be a couple days or even just a full day of just like gloving as it is for what it is, I think would just be fantastic, and the community I think would love it.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, I feel like it allows us to be able to showcase our points about like what is it about gloving culture that is being misconstrued by just ignorance of outward perception, and the perspective from, say, either the media or online or whatever the case may be. I just feel like it allows us to at least tell our side and be like, well, this is how we see it, and if you still think it the way that you do, then that's how you're taking away from it. But this is how we are presenting it. I don't know. So what would you say in terms of being there in person? If you had a choice on venue within the same estimated budgets that both of these comps have, would you go with what LGC went with? Or would you actually try like a hotel convention room, which is something I have also considered since it's really easy to work with?
I don't know their budgets.
Yeah, that's what makes it tough.
Well, that's why I say guesstimate. That's why I say guesstimate budget. It's like within like, okay, not trying to be like Yost Theater IGC level, because I know that was a lot of money.
Right.
Amazing Lights had the capital for that.
If anybody has $25,000 to burn, just let me know. We got it.
Right? It's just, I mean, I was speaking with my husband at one of his hotels that he had a convention room, and I asked him like, okay, well, if I wanted to do something like this, how much do you think the estimates would cost me? He's like, oh, you're probably looking around like $3,000 to $5,000, depending on how much you need in terms of services. Because I mean, he had tables, he had the whole portable seatbelt thing, like he had all the stuff that you can pull off a convention really, really easily.
Right. They have all the goodies for it.
Yeah. So I do tell people like this is relatively conceivable. Like you can really pull this off if you just allocate your funds properly. And I feel like hotels that have convention rooms is a really good idea to go with. Just because I know so many other communities, whether it's like the anime community or any cosplay communities, a lot of times they use hotels and they use their convention rooms to have their conventions in. So I don't see why we can't do that with gloving competitions.
I would agree.
Yeah, I honestly think when it comes to this, I feel like maybe crowdfunding in-person comps is going to help. But it's also, I feel like advertisement I don't want to necessarily say just marketing, but advertisement of these comps to the outward public to try to draw more attention is something I feel like
it takes everyone uniting to share each other,
right,
and promote each other and support each other.
I mean, we did it before.
Yeah, we just got to keep that doing. I feel like that. I saw a lot of that at G3, seeing everyone like uniting.
Yeah, I mean,
you might think that are like think that there's personalities online or something, but no, everyone's chopping it up.
Yeah, like, and that was the coolest thing. Being new gen for the most part, I was very nervous going to these competitions, thinking I was like, oh, nobody's going to hang out with me because nobody knows me. It's gonna be weird, and awkward, and no one's gonna want to trade. But it was the opposite. Like, as soon as I walked in, it was like I knew everybody my entire life, and everyone's my best friend. It was so cool. And so if we could utilize that that kind of mentality, those kind of vibes with competitions when it comes to like promoting and helping uplift all of these events together, I think that's where it's just going to be the sauce, and we're just going to be unmatched at that point.
Yeah, and I feel like with how everything went, especially with both competitions, with LGC being more of a grassroots type of competition, I feel like it has nowhere else to go but up. And from what Gian told me is that they were able to make a little bit of a profit to feed into their next round of competition. So that's something that I think for us as a community, and this is something I definitely want to make sure that the audience understands, these are proof of concepts that this can achieve something bigger if we keep nurturing it and keep it going. One of the things I also kind of felt like was a little disjointed, and I can understand we can chalk this up to just simple non-communication between the two organizers of the two events, was the close proximity in terms of dates. Again, I think we can just chalk it up like they didn't talk to each other about settling on these dates, and it just was happenstance. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that was actually something? Because some people actually say, well, they're really close together.
I mean, they definitely were. It was a massive bump in my wallet to do both, and so
they shouldn't have been so close to each other. I'm having to do that same thing right now at
Right.
another local fest because I got hired to be an instructor for Flow Fair and Flow Storm, which is awesome, amazing. I'm great for the opportunity. But why do y'all have them a week from apart from each other?
Jesus.
That logically does not make sense. How do you expect people to make it to both?
read the room, guys.
You're like, yo, why is no one going? Like it's like a short torn out for either one. Like, just 2 seasons. What the heck?
I almost wonder if that is just always going to be a problem, because if we have these large scale events that do this same stuff, I'd be curious if we could beat it at the small scale that we do it at.
Capitalism breeds competition, in that sense.
Right.
It'll happen one day, just how fast, and then that's all right. How do I undercut or make my thing value more to make you go here versus there, and it gets to that.
Right. Well, see, that's what we don't want to do, especially right now, right? Because we don't want to start dividing lines now. We're too early in the game, and the amount of people that we have is still not enough, right? We need more people putting on more events and doing more things and more podcasts and more stuff. So definitely want to be careful on trying to draw too many hard lines in the sand on that divide.
Well, okay. So would you say, in terms of the absolute maximum limit of how close in proximity between events are, would you say a month is the absolute most that you can do in terms of close proximity?
Minimum. Month in between them.
At least, in my opinion. At least
here's January. See you in March.
Yeah. Okay, so essentially have like a 60-day cool-off period between the two, which I do agree with that. I would certainly say 30 days in between the two is like the most that you can push without breaking people. But yeah, like a week apart, that's insane. And it's one of the things that I feel camping. Well, see, I mean, even in terms of doing online competitions, even asking people to get things done within a week tends to burn people out really quickly.
Messed up my flight. So I was running around so much between the two events.
I feel that.
Oh, jeez.
But you made it.
And barely, dude. I came in the day of. Oh, that was wild.
I mean, I've had situations like that where I had to show up literally the day of, and just pretty much Home Alone running down O'Hara Airport.
I was all over LA, dude, because we were we were missing random cables, like a power cable for the computer. God forbid I remember to fucking pack that. Oh, and so I'm trying to go find one in downtown LA where there's no electronic shops. There's Rite Aids and stuff, and luckily I found this outlet mall that had just a bunch of secondhand stuff. And I was like, "Can I buy that cable?" And he's like, "Yeah, $3." And it worked out. It was an hour and a half of just running around, going in all these rat holes trying to find stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah, I would certainly say even with. Okay, so here's a good question. I don't recall this ever happened at G3 because it didn't really. I don't recall seeing this on the live stream, but I do remember that G3 had a couple of hiccups with the music. I honestly, I don't know. I feel like people kind of exaggerate the hiccups when it comes to the music, like crashing out and stuff.
Right.
Because I guess that happened. Like it blew a fuse or something like that. Well, I'm not entirely sure what happened.
Yeah, like as I understand it, we were running part of the equipment off of a generator, and we were having issues because the venue couldn't support the electric output that we needed for all of the equipment. And so it was literally just a limitation that we had, and it just happened. Okay. And then trying to have to recover that was just like, as you can imagine, it was a little bit of chaos because we're just like, oh God, how do we get this back up and running? But yeah, it was just, we were overloaded.
Limited time, limited resource. There wasn't like a test run or anything. We had to just go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another takeaway to everybody in the audience. If you're going to be running an in-person event, make sure you do a test run because you gotta at least plan for those failures. But that was just one of the things.
Your power draw.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I just didn't understand what exactly was going on because I guess somebody said like, oh, they blew a fuse somewhere. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it's just a little bit too much juice. I mean, there was a video, I don't remember where I saw it. I think it was either Facebook or Instagram, but a well-known DJ was playing and he hit his drop, and the drop was so strong that it literally blew the stage. Like it blew a fuse out on the stage, and just like all the lights and stuff turned off. Later I looked into it and found out it was on Facebook, and it wasn't a fuse. It was actually the speakers.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
And I can't. I if I find it, it will be up here on post. But yeah, that was just kind of confusing. And I mean, I tell people, I was like, look, if the music kind of like craps out and something like that happens, to get so harangued by that is just ridiculous. I mean,
it happens. Like people definitely got weird about that, even in person. I had a couple people make some side comments about it, and I'm like, look, like. We put our heart and soul into these events to figure this out. Everybody put money and everybody put time and effort into this stuff. And we did everything we could to make sure that both of these events ran as smooth as possible. And so to come in sideways like that, like, I get it. Yeah. Be tilted. Don't get me wrong. It broke my heart to see Mike's first round get essentially shat out. Not first round, but that in the finals, I think it was. To see Outlaw's song cut halfway through his show broke my heart because he had such an insane opening and he was in it. But it's like shit happens, and he came back even stronger in the next round. He killed it. And so yeah, there was just everybody did the best they could to make sure that the technical issues were as small and as least impactful as possible. And I think we did all right, personally.
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to explain is that, at least for me, from the live streams I watch on like big scale tournament events, I've seen things go catastrophically wrong. Like,
right.
So like to see these hiccups and people are like, wow, that was so big. It's like perspective, dude. Like you gotta watch other live streams at other events, like esports events and stuff like that. I've seen pyrotechnics at live concerts go wrong.
Oh no.
Yes, if anyone wants to know, I've seen a Rammstein live concert go wrong with some of their pyrotechnics not actually firing. And if anyone doesn't know, Rammstein has probably one of the best pyrotechnic shows ever. Like, that is their pride and joy, hands down. So, I don't know. I would personally say, in terms of what both of them showcase, was really good proofs of concept. I personally think, like with LGC, I know as an afterthought live stream, the music was really hard to hear a lot of the times. And I don't know if that was because of the microphone themselves, but G3 sounded perfect.
I was going to say, you don't need much to make that sound good. We literally just had, I think it was probably like a $60, maybe $100 USB mic that we had a couple filters on, and we messed with it a little bit, but you don't need much. All you need to do is get your settings right, and you can really make it work.
Yeah, and being able to monitor what those feeds sound like is definitely going to help.
Yes,
That's
I had
why
headphones.
I was gonna say always recommend the big giant headphones, noise canceling headphones to help with that. Yeah, is there any other takeaways you guys had? I don't want to sit here and talk more about the live streams just because like I just feel like we're working out the kinks on that. We're trying to figure it out. Or at least we're now really attempting the live stream stuff when it comes to competitions.
I'd be curious to hear y'all's take on the team battle stuff because I thought that was amazing, and I'm surprised we don't see it more. Is that just not a thing very often, or like what's y'all's take on it? New concept, okay.
I would like more of it. I think the issue is this the whole not everyone's able to unite. I think what hindered that possibility was having both competitions by each other. I think more people would have been more together, but they had to pick between one or the other.
Right.
Same. Like I wish we would have done the doubles competition, but I understand why logistically that's so hard because we're all so disconnected from each other.
Yeah.
But as we have more of this happening, hopefully that changes. I want more of that stuff because I think that's just more. It adds more to the camaraderie amongst us, being able to like compete in that fashion and respect for a team and why it's a team, right? Not just a fam. Like that shows what a team is. Yeah, I think it was awesome. Need more of it. Maybe I think we should specialize in it. Personally, let LGC do their thing. Let us do our thing.
Right.
Yeah, gotta.
Yeah, the way I've been kind of sitting here thinking about it is one, when it comes to team battles, doubles, stuff like that, different formats is variety, and variety is the spice of life. I want to see more of that because it allows us to show that we can do other things within the art form. And I feel like I think it is a distance problem. Like a lot of us are really far apart from each other, so actually practicing on doing like double shows is rather difficult. But I do want to see that because with doubles you're able to coordinate with another person and actually work off of each other like a lot of musicians will do when they're doing like jam sessions. And so I want to see a different format where it's two people actually working together intentionally and not just like, oh, we're just feeling off each other's vibes. Like, no, we actually work off of each other and play off of each other. Because I feel like with that, the communication of ideas between Glovers is going to streamline a lot better. And we were able to like just work, be able to communicate ideas to each other in a more cohesive manner that other people can understand.
Right.
Team battles, I love the idea of it because even something like Flowtron is fantastic. Is you are not necessarily just seeing who's the best. It's seeing who can coordinate and work together to bring something together that is very cohesive and entertaining to the audience. So I like that, and just like how McKinnley said, the bringing that unification with each other is huge key, and I feel like Team Battles does provide that outlet of camaraderie with your teammates. And we have teams for a reason. Why not have team battles to showcase the teams, like PM versus LOL versus LLB versus PLL and AO and TM and IM, and there's a lot of things with M's at the end of it.
Also, at least it'll
battles.
It'll at least give everyone a good outlet to just talk shit. They can be toxic on the internet again.
So here's something I do want to ask, because this is something I feel like we kind of like lost altogether. And the only time that I actually felt like we had any remnant of that was the first G3. Do you guys recall when IGC had the battles between like Finger Circus and Team E, which was everybody who worked for Amazing Lights?
Yeah.
There is a video of it. Yeah, with Parrot and all that stuff. I want to see a showcase like that. even if you do just one little exposition match type deal with the two teams, I want to see that more.
Something we almost did for LGC, but it was too last minute. So because the judges, we didn't get a single break for LGC. We were just going till the end. Didn't get to eat till later. If we had gotten to eat, we were gonna do an exhibition match amongst the judges.
That'd have been so cool.
You know, just to give another thing. But we vouched to just eat and then go trade. Yeah. By that point.
That's the other thing too. If anybody's putting on a comp, leave 3 hours at the end of it for trades, please. Just no matter what the event is, just leave a good chunk of time just to let people hang out and trade.
Network. It's more valuable than anything.
I would certainly say that you definitely saw that at G3 through the live stream, and just seeing the amount of people just giving trades in view of the camera was really, really cool. Because again, that's one of the things I want to showcase is like, look how much fun people are having with this activity that they spent so much time in. You know, it to me, and it shows it's a removal of what has been put on us a long time ago, back in like 2010, 2011, and really try to showcase this in a more positive light that isn't influenced by mainstream media and all that stuff.
Right, definitely.
So I would certainly say I would like to have like a team battle thing, like how they did Finger Circus versus Team E, as like an opening ceremony type deal, if that makes any sense. Because there are a lot of like big convention tournament things. They always have like an opening ceremony thing, and I just think that would be really, really cool. It showcases teams, it showcases people who are on the teams, and it showcases like how the team formulates their particular image in a battle with another team, and just kind of having that back and forth was really, really cool back in IGC era, and I would like to see that come back. However you guys come up with that will be on you, but it'd be just something really cool and a cool way to kick things off.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, what else do you guys think was really important to know from both competitions?
Deodorant.
Yeah.
Deodorant.
Twice. Bring it with you, please. It's not that crazy.
Hygiene.
And I'm a big dude. I sweat. I changed shirts twice that day to make sure I wasn't gonna be musty.
Okay, I would personally say
he never smelled musty. I hugged this man. I was happy every time.
I will personally say it is rather common to, like, especially like when I was going to a lot of raves, people bringing extra shirts with them just to change midway through, because with a lot of raves, sometimes you're stuck in a warehouse that doesn't have really good ventilation, and so it's really warm in there no matter what. So and that's where I kind of think that's just a product of the convention competition
I'm
thing.
gonna bring more hygiene stuff than gloving stuff to those events.
I would personally say if you're looking for a venue, make sure that one of the things you're checking is good ventilation.
Please get some windows in there at least.
Oh geez, yeah. Like,
and I guess I can warm up.
Right. And I mean, just another little caveat for people that are going to start renting venues. Just make sure you catalog the condition of everything when you first get there and when you leave. This is just a good business decision at that point. It's to make sure that you're covered in the event of any damages or anything like that, because if there's a question of it, you will always be the one held liable. So,
yes. As my mom will always tell you, when it comes to any decision, think about the liability.
Especially at these hotels and stuff, you just gotta be a little careful.
Especially when it comes to the hotel. I will even tell you that from my experience working in the hotel industry. Definitely do that if you're going to use a hotel as your venue, because they are very meticulous in finding stuff. There's a reason why managers are good at inspections of rooms. I just want to point that out.
That was me. I was the monster.
I don't know. Do you know what would be really cool to see? An outside venue, an outdoor competition. I think that would be really cool.
I think it'd be sick. I would just be too nervous of the damn weather just boning us.
Yeah, I mean, so like, kind of did something like that ish. So for Domads, the competition that I won, It was at a flow camping festival that hosted a gloving competition. So it was outdoors. We were all camping, and it was held inside this dome. So it was like a little tent.
Oh, the tent domes that
Big
people bring.
ass
Yeah.
tent. Yeah, it's like a big ass little tent dome with chairs, speaker system, DJ, all that shit, and yoga mat. It was like that, and it was like and then outside of that tent, there was the fire circle, and everyone was doing their thing down there. So you're either in the tent or you're at the fire circle, or you're at some other tent down there, looking through booths or whatever. It's really chill.
The reason why I think it would be really cool to actually do an outdoor event like that is, one, I think finding a place to be able to do that will help save on costs in terms of like renting out a venue space. I mean, I don't think it costs that a whole lot to like rent out a park. You know what I mean? I've seen people do it all the time for like birthdays for their kids and stuff. Like, why I don't see why we couldn't do it in that fashion. Now I understand when it comes to the whole music aspect and the audio aspect of it, that is something of concern. But I did see a video recently where somebody was at a silent disco in a park and were giving light shows, and they had the music synced up to the phone and stuff. So, again, another proof of concept of what we can do for outdoor events and make it silent disco.
Invest in silent disco equipment. Word.
I like that idea a whole lot, in all honesty.
I mean, one thing that's like an idea that is, it's hard to find, but where I live at, there's plenty of them, is like state parks. There's a lot of small state parks that you're allowed to camp at for free. And so then at that point, it's just getting people to the location. Problem is, most of the time when you find these state parks, if it's going to be small enough to not have a massive crowd, but be able to support a decently sized group of people, it's usually like in rural areas and things like that. So that's be like our own little mini Burning Man or something, but it could definitely be pulled off, because like I know I got one.
Clean up rules and all that stuff too, because you don't want to leave.
1,000%. You got to have the cleanup crew. That's where the money you save on the venue is the money you put into the labor to be able to keep the place clean, security, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're some. I mean, there's a movie called "Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead."
Yeah.
And there's a segment in there where she was just like, "Convention rooms are so old-fashioned. How about we do it at my place?" And it's like this big place with a pool and stuff. I'm just like, man, I really wish I could find a place I could do that with.
Yeah, somebody just needs to get a mansion, build the Wook Ranch, and let us run it.
I mean, even finding a private property where they have a big open space where that would work just as fine. But yeah, no, I just think it would be really cool to do an outdoor event like that, even if it's just like a convention thing too, just like how they do with fire circles. But I think it ultimately does come down to location.
What it is, got to find it central enough for everybody, but interesting enough to make them want to go.
Whole Glover retreat where I have like just workshops, and then at the end of the night we're all just trading, and yeah.
Oh, that just gives me a chubby thinking about it, dude. That'd be so insane.
But we could have been done it, but like gloving and flow arts have been so distance from each other as to how they communicate and whether one is the other, yada yada.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I felt like when we had Drex on here, I felt like that was a good way to start bridging the gap. So I probably tell him to do that again. I mean,
I love him, but did you see some other stuff that he did?
What?
He would like this. He brought up the whole juggling, poise not juggling thing, and now there's another disconnect from people now.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mean, poi is not juggling, and then there's that whole debate of, is flow arts just juggling? Are you all just juggling the props?
See, I didn't want to try to spoil this, but you're basically kind of like explaining what I'm trying to do with my next video, where I'm basically trying to show how gloving is dance, and it's flow arts, and it's magic, and it's street performance, and it's
like the evolution.
It is all of it.
Yeah, instead of trying to show the differences of these things, I'm trying to show how there are commonalities that gloving had taken from all of these. So keep an eye out for that, everybody. It's I feel like I'm going to make a good presentation, because this is the type of video that I want people to be able to take and show somebody who doesn't know gloving and show it. Very almost akin to like what Amazing Lights did with like Art of Gloving, their 3 documentary series that they made. I want to do something similar to that, but I definitely want it to be like a definitive, okay, I want to introduce somebody into gloving, this is the video that I'm going to show. Like, I want it to be that video. So
I need that, because I show people, I always stair step them in, right? Like I phase it. It's like, what's gloving? I'm like, it's dance. I start real broad. I'm like, but it's dancing, but just with your hands. And then from there, I usually go into the old Samsung commercials, and I'll show them those. Like, oh yeah, those were sick. I really like those. And then from there, I'm like, okay, now we add lights, and this is what it looks like. And usually if I do that kind of a gradient, it's usually not as weird of a conversation. And so being able to have something that does all of those comparisons in a video like you're discussing would be nice.
Right. Well, here's the funny thing is, to kind of top this all off, I've discovered videos on YouTube of like Electric Daisy Carnival from the year 2000, and like stuff from like 1998 and the early 2000s era of rave scenes. And I'm literally digging through these hours of videos to find any source of forms of gloving before 2006. I'm literally digging. There is one frame in one of these videos that is up to debate, whether it is a glove or it's one of these fan things that kind of seem like a lot of people had during that time period. I cannot definitively tell, but I will have that in the video, be like, this is the only thing that could be plausible, make plausibility that gloving has been around even longer than 2006. But until, and I'll even say this here in this episode, until somebody gives me definitive proof that showcases and is verifiable that this is something that was before 2006, I will say, here are the early remnants. But until then, a lot of people need to understand 2006 is where we claim the start of what we know gloving as today. But I do see a lot of videos showing people wearing the Mickey Mouse gloves in that time period, so which somebody always says, well, that was gloving back in the day. I'm like, well, there are no lights, that's just Mickey Mouse gloves. It's
people want to play in the gray so much.
Yes, they love playing in the gray too
actually
much.
It's like, well, like, because they weren't calling gloving,
right?
Exactly.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, I agree that like you aren't really gloving if you don't have the lights and the gloves. You hear that? Lights and the gloves. You're not really gloving.
Right. Well, here's
like,
the funny thing.
You're not using techniques if you're dancing with it.
Well, here's the funny thing is the format of what gloving uses, that one-on-one exchange. Like, there is evidence of that when, how do I explain? Do you know those light spinner things that they have at like the dollar store and stuff, and it has like strings out and then they start spinning and show different colors and all that? You see that in these videos that I'm finding, where it's just people going like this and then they go like that in front of them, like that, showing that one-on-one exchange light show thing, but it's not gloving, it's just light show stuff. So like
it's a light show.
It's really funny, or to me it's just kind of like a revelation that I've been having, that you're seeing all the aspects of gloving in the rave scene but haven't been brought together into gloving yet. Like, you see the glow sticking, you see the light show format thing, you're seeing the dance aspect of it, you're seeing the glove aspect of it, but no one has brought these things together yet. Like, I do have video evidence of people with like 2 lights and they're doing the whole like Inova thing, but it's still not gloving yet because they haven't like put them. It's insane.
It's all the stages.
Like it's the best way I can describe it is like how in Tron Legacy we got the isomorphic algorithms. The conditions were just right and it came into being. And so you're seeing all these elements of gloving in like early 1998 era just not put together yet. They're floating around. The ingredients are there. They just have not culminated yet. And it's pretty insane.
I like that visual. That's awesome.
Well, see, that's what I'm going to try to do is I'm actually going to try to showcase, like, here are all these aspects that just sat around until one day somebody put them together, and it just so happened to be, according to Amazing Lights, it was Hermes that did it. But
Hermes.
I clicked on his thing. I want to hit up on some people. There are some dudes who had commented on his earliest videos who claim that they had evidence before.
I'm gonna
I
send it.
haven't got any reply. No one's replied, but it's very interesting that there are people that are there saying that.
yeah, see, that's what I'm doing. I want to put out like a $50 bounty right now. If you can give me proof and receipts of any form of gloving as we know it today, with 10 lights and gloves on somebody's hands in front of another person doing the thing before 2006, I will pay you the money. I want the evidence. Prove to me this stuff.
You heard it here first.
But yeah, so other than that, that's pretty much all I'm going to explain on that video. That video is going to be really long, but I can certainly tell you the first like 3 minutes is definitely going to be a very short, concise thesis of what gloving is, and then I'm going to break it all down from there, like I always do.
Oh yeah, I'm excited for that. I love your videos, man.
Thank you. But yeah, is there any other takeaways of live competitions that we should probably think about or discern to people?
Support your local vendors and people so that it allows these events to happen more. That's all I got.
Yeah,
Tell your friends, bring spectators.
Bring non-glovers with you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, bring people that you go to raves with or festivals with to these events as well, because it's just like that, just on a smaller scale, and they're still gonna just have as much fun.
It's a super intimate party is what it feels like, and I love it. It's intoxicating. I would live in that if I could.
I mean, to me, the way I always feel, it's like the after party of a rave and stuff, but that's the main event.
Yeah, for like hours. It just never stops.
for many hours until the sun starts coming out and you're like, oh god, I need to go home now. I look like a gremlin.
Yeah, we got a pretty dope community.
Yeah, well, I guess to end things off, if anyone in the audience has anything to say about LGC or G3 or any anecdotes from your experience, if you have attended those or watched the live streams, we would love to hear what you guys have to say, so that way other people who may be wanting to do something very similar to this will have that information. I will certainly say that I have taken a lot of notes from seeing Jess's streams and Puppet streams of how I want to curate my monthly ranked pit battle streams, which again, those will be on YouTube but will not be on Facebook, so anyone will be able to see them, because I feel like it's a really good showcase. So please stay tuned. Around April 1st is when I'll do it, or wherever the first weekend or the closest weekend to April 1st, I will do that. So please stay tuned for that. Of course, you guys will find everybody's socials down in the description below. Also, I will put it in a comment, because a lot of people tell me that I should put their links in a comment. So I'll do that. I'll pin the comment for you guys. Other than that, I certainly hope you guys enjoyed what we had to say. I definitely want to hear from you guys, and we'll definitely try to catch you guys next time.
Peace.